Hi, this is me, Katy.
And this is Ginger Hawn Cooper, the determined genealogist. And this is lesson number 3. And this story is about the adoption of my mom and the quest that was her quest and the quest that became my quest, because I promised her I would never give up looking. And I'm fixing to cry because I was thinking about Mama who died in 2008. I'm sorry. Anyway, her name was June Bell Lane. That was her adoptive name. Oh, she's... Oh.
Ow. Broke my
This
foot.
was her delayed birth certificate, and this was a sure sign that she was adopted because the doctor said he knew of her birth, and it wasn't issued until 1945. Mama was born June 5th, 1924.
I need to take my socks off.
This was her favorite picture, by the way, so I wanted to show it first. She was pregnant with my oldest brother, Walt, who I love dearly. I'm sorry. I just got teary-eyed about my mom. But this lesson is number 3, and this is about adoption and where I found help to find information, but also clues and stuff like that. And I'm going to post this on the Determined Genealogist Facebook page, and you can find a copy of that, and it's free.
.com.
Yeah, Facebook.com. Okay. Because I had to sneeze. Okay. I didn't want to sneeze on everybody. Okay. The story begins during the Great Depression. Mama was older when she had me, and she lived through it as well as my dad did. Anyway, she lived during the Depression as well as my dad did, and I grew up with stories about the Depression. They can't see you, Katy. There you go. You got to see your pretty little face. Okay, well, anyway, Mama, her parents, my grandfather owned 4 dry cleaning stores and built their home in Denver, Colorado. And when the Depression hit, he ended up losing all his stores. He became a manager of one, and he started staying out nights, drinking. And my grandmother chased him down and found him. She got in her car, she put the girls in the back, and she chased him down, and she found where he was at, and then he was cheating on her. And she divorced him. Well, when Mama was 12, it was a huge year for her. She had polio, which made one leg shorter than the other, and gave her a hump on her back.
What does that mean?
And you'd never know it from looking at her. She was a real beauty in my eyes, but then she was my mom. And I look like her, but I'm not a beauty, but Mama was. No. And anyway, she...
What?
Lost my train of thought. Go figure. Okay, anyway, she had polio that year, and she couldn't walk. She had to crawl to the bathroom, and a gym teacher ended up helping her. That was Katy's foot, not mine. The gym teacher helped her to build up her strength. The same year, Mama she had a bedroom in the basement. She liked the basement because she got privacy. And what ended up happening is that her grandmother, which would be my great-grandmother, Addie Indiana Bell Barton, Addie Levita Indiana Bell Barton, Tracy, because she married a Tracy, and that was in the family Bible, that name was. She ended up going in a nursing home because she had a stroke. And so all her stuff was in the basement where Mama was. And Mama, being curious, just like I'm curious, I'm a curious person too, she found out, she was digging through the stuff, and she pulled up a newspaper article. And in it, it said that, about the divorce, and it said that they had 3 children born to the union and 1 adopted child. And my mom knew at that point it was her that was adopted. If you look, here's my mom, and here's my grandmother, and here's my Aunt Jackie.
And here is.
And if you look, Mama was darker skinned, dark hair, brown eyes, and she was heavy set. My grandmother and my aunts, 5', 5'2", redheaded, blue eyed, fair skinned, and even my grandfather was redheaded, fair skinned. And Mama knew that she was the one that was adopted. And she burst into tears. And my Aunt Nikki, who I talked about, whose real name is Juanita, she saw Mama crying. And she said, Mom, she found out. She found it in Grandma's stuff. She found out. And she ran up the stairs. And Mom went up after she got done crying, and she asked my grandmother about it. And my grandmother said, "You are my daughter. You're nobody else's daughter. And you were not adopted." That story is baloney.
Baloney.
And this is a picture of Mom. We'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, so Mama was really sad, but she knew something was up with it. And my mom had started having dreams about a little boy and a little girl that were older than her, and about a wreck. And she saw the little boy's and little girl's faces all the time, and Mama continued to have that dream throughout her life about this little boy and girl, and she felt they were her siblings. Well, anyway, Grandma wouldn't say anything, so Mom started asking. Now, she asked Grandma's brother, Burdette Tracy, she asked him about the story, and he said, him and his wife, and they said, yeah, you were adopted. They said, excuse me, they said what had happened is Mama was standing in a circle with the other children, and she saw my grandfather, Grover, who I didn't even know that was his name. Grover Ted, he went by Ted. Actually, it's Grover Theodore Lane. He went by Ted. She saw him, she turned loose of the kids, and she ran and jumped into his arms. And so they adopted it. And the story was that my Aunt Nikki was born, and Grandma got pregnant again with a little boy, and she almost died, and the little boy almost died. Grandma had a bad heart. She had scarlet fever as a child, and she had a bad heart. So the doctors told them not to have any more children. So they decided to adopt a child, which was my mom. And then it ended up to where she had 2 more daughters after Mama was born. Now, the other story that was told to Mom is that when she was 2 and a half, they adopted her. But that's when my Aunt Jackie was born, or Theodale. Her name was Theodale. She went by Jackie. And that's when she was born. So they wouldn't have adopted her then. But that was the story that was told. Now, her sister told her, Nikki, told her, who was quite a bit older than Mom, told her that what happened is that the woman gave up, her birth mother gave up her older children and spread them out throughout Colorado in different orphanages. And that she was immoral. Well, there's other names, but I'm not going to say it. And that all of her kids are basically illegitimate, and Mama was illegitimate. And so that's all that would be told to my mom. Oh, and she said that she had younger children that she did keep. And Mom was one of 9 children. 9 is what they told her. Well, anyway, that's all they would tell her. Then my grandmother made them all swear on her deathbed that they would tell my mom nothing. My Aunt Patty, my favorite aunt in the whole world besides maybe Aunt Helen and Aunt Norma, excuse me, she would not say nothing, not to Mama, not to me, nobody. She wouldn't say nothing. Neither would my other aunts. They wouldn't say anything. So, my dad did it. My dad said not for my mom to look. He told her he didn't want her to look. Well, after he died in 1970, my mom began to look, and she was born in Meeker, Colorado, which is way up atop the mountains in the eastern side, way above tree line. And that's on her birth certificate. And she called the doctor who delivered the babies, and he said, I didn't deliver you. I did not deliver you. I would have remembered, that day and all that. And so, and he checked for her. He looked around and around for anybody that gave birth to a little girl on that day, and he did not find anything.
Yep.
And so Mom looked, and she didn't know what orphanage that she was adopted from. So she didn't have any way of knowing. She called some, and they said, you weren't here, you weren't here, you weren't here. So she continued to have these dreams. And here's Mama, the first known picture they took of her. And they told her she was 2.5, but if you look at the picture, she looks younger than that. Here's my aunts with my mom, and here's my mom when she was 12. When she ended up with Polly when she found out she was adopted. That was her baptism picture. There's my grandma, Neola Agnes Tracy, Aunt Grandma Kowarski, because she married Grandpa Ray. And here's my mom during her high school years. Those are pictures of my mom. Now my dad went to school, and he will be the next chapter in this. He'll be the next lesson, because I'm going to tell how I found stuff out on him. But anyway, he ended up with 2 degrees, and 2 bachelor's degrees, and 1 master's degree by the time he was 38. He's a very, very intelligent person. And my mama got better grades. It's so funny, because I got the school records to show it. But I shouldn't laugh, but it's funny. My mom was also a marksman. She won this in an Iowa pistol contest. I found the newspaper articles about that. She ended up getting that. And she also went to college and graduated. She was pregnant with her 3rd child. She had us over 15 years. She had 5 kids over 15 years. And she had just had my brother in this picture. He was 5 days old, and this was when she graduated with the bachelor's degree. She became a teacher. Now, Mama looked and looked and looked and looked, but she never found anything. So she asked me, doing genealogy, she said, I want you to find my birth family. And I told her I would, and I told her I would never stop looking. Now, my mama passed away in 2000. She had a massive stroke, and she passed away in she passed away in 2008. And there was my mom's obituary. This is me and my older daughter, Chris, who I love dearly, but we don't talk. We're estranged. I guess that's what it's called, estranged, whatever. She's a good person. She just claims her dad's side of the family and not me, and that's okay. I miss her a lot, but I love her, and I miss my grandkids, but that's another story, and I've learned from it. I've grown from it. It's helped me to be a better person. But anyway, I love that picture because my daughter, she wears stuff that my mom would have.
I mean,
I guess she kind of reminded me of this. Just wear at the funeral. Her name is Chris.
I need a sneeze.
Okay. Now this is, my mom used to tell me and Chris a story all the time. My mom lived with us for 2.5 years. Bless you.
You should have paused it.
Oops. She would tell us that when you saw sunlight through the clouds, that it was God talking to someone. Now, it was a very, very cloudy day when we buried her in February, and very warm day, as you could tell how we're dressed, which even in Tennessee sometimes, it's nice weather, even in February sometimes, but you could see there was breaks in the clouds, and you could see it, and it was so cloudy that day. And these sunbeams started at the church that's down the hill, and it worked all the way up the hill, and it went over to my mom's coffin when it came out of the hearse, and it followed her all the way over. I want to cry. Okay, it followed her all the way over until we put under the canopy. And so I keep this picture because I took it because it just reminded me that God was talking to my mom that day. Well, anyway, I continued looking for her birth family. And I take classes all the time to learn more about genealogy, to help me to be a better genealogist. And I was in this one class, and this guy got up and he said, "You can find anything on the internet." I told him, "No, you can't." He said, "Yes, you can." And I said, "No, you can't." And he said, "What are you looking for?" And I said, "I want to find my mom's birth family." So he gave me this website, and I filled out what I knew, which is basically the story that I told you, the different things about it, which was not a lot. And I typed in what I knew, and I've got that posted on the Determined Genealogist Facebook page. Just ask to be included, and I'll put you in there. And that website's on there. If I knew how to put it right here, I would, but I don't know how to do that. Anyway, I went out there and I posted what I knew. Okay? Within 24 hours, I got this answer. I knew Mom's legal parents, and I knew 3 of her siblings. Within a week, I found where she was adopted from. I found the orphanage. I found her family, their dates of birth, other stuff, from this lady called the Seekers on there. And it's free service, and the lady helped me. And that week, the lady also sent me Mama's older sister, Frances. She sent me her obituary with the name of her kids. And from that, I was able to get a hold of my cousins. I started looking, and I found my cousins. And I got a hold of him, and I talked to Jim all the time, only his name, he has another name. It's not Jim. Why is it with me? They will change their names. But he, but anyway, he said, "My mom looked for your mom for years." He said, "Little Genie," that's what they called her, Junie. And he said they looked for her for years. Well, anyway.
This has been a long video.
I know. Yeah, and we're not done.
Can we just pause it?
Not yet.
I've been talking in the video because I've been doing this.
Oh, you were doing something else. Okay.
And Karina's here, the YouTuber.
Okay.
That's my friend, see? You see her? Karina.
Okay.
I'm not talking about anything.
Okay.
It's not your business what it is.
Anyway, I began, from that point, I began to look for things. And in the state of Colorado, if everybody is deceased, now, this is Aunt Frances with her daughter. My Aunt Frances was a Gilly. And this is her again with her daughter. And there she is again. This is her again. And now the state home, which happened to be about 6 blocks from where my mother grew up, is the orphanage that they all went to, that all the kids went to. And the lady helped me that I got a hold of. She helped me to know what to write to get the funeral home records. And they sent, not the funeral home, but the orphanage records. And they redacted things, but I could still see some of it, some through it. Found out, I did some research on the orphanage, and the little girls, Mama was kept here. This was the nursery. That's where Mama was kept. And she was separated from her siblings, the older kids. But they used to stand in a circle and when someone came for adoption, which matched Mama's story that they had told her. This is where my Aunt Frances was, and Mama's other sister named Emma L., who she ended up getting adopted by John and something Trout. I'd have to look at it. She ended up getting adopted. I found that, and they moved to California. Her name became Margaret, I believe. Haven't traced her down yet. I promised Mama I'd find her siblings, so I'm still looking. Okay. Well, in Colorado, now I have some of these orphanage records, and let me see if I can find any of them out for you. Now these are the orphanage records, and they're hard to read, but I could see her siblings clearly on there. They had their birth dates on there. They went by Rice, and that was my grandmother's second husband. And this is more of the same. Now, they did what they call redacting, which is they took out information, but you could see some things through it. Now, with Aunt Frances. And he died before Frances was born. His name was Eugene Gilly. And my grandmother, Emma Frances Brandt, she married again. She married Edward Rice, and he was a drifter. And she got pregnant, and he took off. Ended up in Oregon. I've got where he signed his sister's marriage license, and on a record, a registration. We're going to go ahead and do this in two parts because this is 21 minutes already. This is
Katy
Cooper and Ginger Cooper, the determined genealogist. And this is about my mom and the story, lesson number 3, about adoption. Y'all have a great day. We'll be back.